So everybody doing good tonight?
Yep.
Good, because we last week we got into all the different issues for voting and stuff. So we figured we could use a little more time doing that. So I guess this is like part two. So we're going to go back and look at some of the issues and talk some more about them. We can go over some of the things we talked about last week. Maybe you want to talk a little more about some of those things. Um, or we can talk about other issues that are heavy on your heart. We're only a week away from the election, guys. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Seems like this has been going on forever.
Yeah, I voted 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my wife and I, we like to go to the poll on election day. We're still old fashioned. We like to go and go through that process. But I know a lot of people now are voting. Jim, did you mail in a ballot? Is that what it is?
Yes,
Do you think there's ever going to be a time when we can vote on computers?
I
I
hope
hope.
I hope not. It's already wide open for cheating.
Yep.
Okay, but there's ways to make it secure too.
Well, have you seen there's already in Lancaster County, which is east of here, they've already got things going on that ballots are being illegal ballots are already being cast. And also I seen about an hour ago, I seen that somebody set a ballot box on fire and burned the ballots up that was in the box. I'm not quite sure where that was at because I didn't get to see the whole thing, but
I guess if you burn a ballot box, are you assuming that the majority of votes in there are against what you want? Is that what you do?
I would think so.
No.
But aren't you burning some of your own ballots?
Well, let's say that you had a Republican that wanted to cheat, and they go into a dark blue area and you blow up a ballot box. You're probably going to blow up mostly Democrat votes.
Okay.
any way you figure it, it's wrong.
Right. Nobody should be cheating, but they always
No.
cheat.
Yeah.
Hey, Barry, how do you want to handle this conversation? Are we to I mean some of the issues are just so black and white for a Christian that probably none of us disagree on them. Do you want us just to represent what the Christian viewpoint should be?
Yeah, I think, and well, let's just do this. This, you know, you can't see it. This is a copy of the U.S. Constitution.
I have it memorized.
Well, I'm glad you do. There's like 38 pages or something, and this print is not very big, so it's tiny print, and there's like 38 pages. Okay, but with the amendments and everything. So that's the Constitution. All right, and this, of course, is the Bible. All right. Now, I understand that in a sense we have a dual citizenship. All right. Heaven is my home, but for now, God has me here. And I don't take the privilege to vote lightly. I think Christians should do that. And I think they should take it seriously. I cringe when I hear people take it flippantly or when they openly express the reason for their voting or who they're voting for, and it's just ridiculous, you know, to put it bluntly. People say, I'm going to vote for a person because of their sex. I'm going to vote for a person because of the color of their skin. I'm going to vote for a person just because I think it's time for that person to have a chance. So we don't have good reasoning, I think, sometimes when we vote. And I've often thought, and I know this can never happen, but I've often thought we should have a minimal test people have to take, that they have at least a basic understanding of the issues before us before they can go vote. Now, I know that's not going to happen. I know constitutionally that can't happen. But it seems to me that would make some sense. At least we get people who know what they're talking about, you know, before they go and pull a lever. But on these issues, and again, last week, because this is really part two, some of the issues I shared with us last week were the economy, healthcare, Supreme Court appointments, foreign policy, violent crime, immigration, gun policy, abortion, racial and ethnic inequality, and climate change. And I was doing some research again today, and it's funny, well, not funny, haha, but strange how the issues change when you're looking at what one party says the key issues are as to what the other party says. And the reason I wanted to share the Constitution and the Bible, I think often as Christians, we tend, I don't want to paint with too broad of a brush here, but we often tend to say, but the Constitution says. And I understand that viewpoint, but for me, it's more important as to what the Word of God says. Okay, so the Constitution is not my authority. The Word of God is my authority. So when I look at a lot of these issues and people say, well, these are, Jim, I think was black and white. For me, it's a lot of times they're gray because I say, well, there's more to it than the black and white. So tonight we can continue where we were last week talking about these issues, or we can get into some of the gray areas and why we need to think maybe a little deeper on some of these issues.
Well, most of the issues, they're interconnected in one form or another, besides the mighty old dollar, but one issue affects another. So
Okay.
depending on where you are, if you're a senior citizen on a fixed income, or if you're a young person, with a brand new job and making good money, or somewhere in the middle, the economy is going to affect immigration. Gun policies are going to affect, the Supreme Court. It's going to affect the health issue. The economy affects the health issue. So depending on where you're at, you can look at any one of these issues, you're going to be affected by it. The question is, how are you perceiving it from your point of view, wherever you stand? And with me, I think a lot of people just get so frustrated because, they're looking at the economy, they can't afford food, they can't afford gas and car to go to work and stuff like that. But then they forget about immigration. The money's being siphoned away from one area to go to immigration to take care of the immigrants. Or abortion. They're just spending so much time and money and effort in abortion, they can take that money and lowers costs for other things. So everything is interconnected. And depending on where you are, like in my case, or in our case, that we're older and believers, we look at the Bible first, but everything's connected. And unless you pay attention and get educated, take the time to really learn, different areas of the economy, healthcare, where you're at. People just don't pay attention. They listen to everything else that really doesn't affect them directly, but they get brainwashed, and they don't take enough time to really sit and think what affects them directly. I'll give you a good example. Social Security. Most older folks, seniors like us, were on Social Security, and when you hear somebody say, "Oh, they're going to cut your Social Security," the alarm goes off. The red flag goes up, and right away you have a negative thought about the person that's supposed to be going to cut your monthly checks. So with that thinking, you don't bother saying you're looking at anything else or looking at the whole picture, and say, well, maybe they're not telling the truth. Maybe that person's not going to do that, or maybe that this is just a scare tactic. But most people don't think that way. And one of the problems that I see is, how do you get people engaged to really pay attention to what is around them and what affects them directly? That's been the big question, because on the Democratic side, ever since I can remember, even back as a teenager in Pittsburgh, that the Republicans are going to cut welfare and Social Security and Medicare. I haven't seen that yet. As a matter of fact, under the Democrats in Washington, D.C., we're paying more fees for Medicare and Social Security. They're taking more out of my check each month. So who do I believe?
The media.
Well, we used to be able to rely on the media years and years ago. Now, if you rely on the media, you might as well just give them the money, your money. You might as well give them all your possessions, your house, because that's where it's going.
Is Pennsylvania having a Senate race right now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Is it very adversarial, I assume?
It's tight.
It's tight, okay.
And it is adversarial. I don't know. With some of the issues that we're dealing with today, abortion, I've been a one issue voter almost forever. With abortion being decided, will be decided at some point across each state. I don't see how it can't be adversarial. You're dealing with people who love death versus people who love life.
Well, as I said in the last video, I hate to be a one issue voter, but that is where I start also, Jim. If you don't support life, then you don't get my vote. Now, after that, then I have to say, okay, now this person says he supports pro-life, okay, does that mean he gets my vote? Not necessarily. There are other issues I have to look at. And there are elections where I don't vote for anybody.
You're not helping.
Well, I'm not hurting either.
If one is clearly better than the other, you should vote for the better than the other.
The lesser of two evils?
Yeah, because you're going to get, if you don't support the lesser, you're going to get the more.
Okay.
That issue alone started out. The Democrats were running ads, and still are, that Trump is going to completely abolish abortion. And now you're seeing the Republicans running ads that Trump is not, he supports certain abortion rights, which is what his stance was all along, a 16-week deal. But the Democrats took it and said, oh, he's going to abortion. You see the women on there crying, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Trump's going to take abortions away. Well, it was a lie. But the media, all the media outlets, including Fox News, run that stuff. They're paid to run it. They run it, and they let their newscasters expand on it also. And it just gets, they just keep going with it. And so there's the lie, the propaganda machine. And Gino said we used to be able to rely on the news, and I sort of wonder about that, because even the Vietnam War, you only seen what they wanted to show you.
Yeah.
Even back as far as World War I, you didn't see everything. And you know what? It's probably good. That all that stuff wasn't put out there. But at least I would say, for what Gino said, there was more of a balanced media than there is now. Now it's an establishment, just like the deep state. Matter of fact, I think they're probably in the deep state to a certain extent. But the propaganda, probably on both sides, I would say, it's just rampant. But I agree with what Jim said there, Barry. I believe that you got to vote for the lesser of the two evils. And I wish Trump would go total abortion. There's an ad for Scott Perry on the Democrats are running. It says, and he said it. He did say that he was against all abortions. And every time I see that ad, I say, praise the Lord. Somebody taking a stand on it. Well, Scott Perry in our area is very popular, and a decorated Marine, I believe, wasn't he? I believe.
Yeah.
But
He's a one-star general. I thought he was Army, but maybe
he was. But
he was a pilot. He was a pilot.
To end what I'm saying there, it seems to me that if you have something crooked at the top, and then you have an apparatus to be able to spread that, I could go around to 25 people in our church and tell them on the other end of the church, hey, Trump's coming in the West Wing. I'll guarantee you that whole church would be going that way. Well, the whole church would be going that way because they believe if somebody tells them something over and over again, they're going to believe it. And that's what happens. One media outlet says it, another one picks it up, another one picks it up, it's truth now. Doesn't have to be truth, but it's truth because they keep expelling that word. So
We have a conversation somewhere in the background.
that's not me.
That's the ladies in my house. Conversation back there. We're picking it up.
It's bleeding through.
Yeah, I really
We're
do
going to go
reject,
downstairs.
I really do reject the idea of voting for the lesser of two evils. I really do. Because at the end of the night, when I put my head down on the pillow, I have to answer to God and say, I voted for this guy or that person, really? To lead our country? God, I have to answer to you. And really, that was my choice?
Let me help you out with that one. Put your
Okay.
head on the pillow and say, Lord, I voted against that person who wants to kill babies up until the time they come out of the uterus.
Okay. But that's kind of the argument, and I hate to be too crass here, but this is an extreme argument, but I'll make the point. I can't vote for a prostitute, but if she tithes on her income, now that's better.
I don't see there's any equivalency there at all.
Well, we're looking at the lesser of two evils.
Well, who's she running against?
Well, a prostitute that doesn't tithe.
Okay, then what's the rest of her platform?
Well, some of it may be good, but some of it may be bad.
And whether or not they tithe or not would not sway my vote.
Okay.
If one believed in abortion and the other didn't, that would.
And I can't go when they say, well, I'm a Christian, because a lot of them say they're Christians.
Yes, most politicians do.
And I can't go by what they say. I have to go by what they say or what they do, their actions.
Right.
And I'm not impressed with a lot of people that way. So
We don't have a perfect person running.
well, I know Jesus
And
isn't
there is
running.
no perfect person on this earth.
I understand Jesus isn't running, okay?
Yeah.
But come on, guys, we can do better than this.
Yes, we should be able to do better, but we haven't. We don't.
And
We don't have
I
anybody.
believe both parties, if we took this more seriously and we would tell both parties, don't bring stuff up here that I cannot support. Don't bring candidates that I cannot support. We would make a difference. But what we say, whatever you guys bring forth, we will support.
Well, Barry, okay, so if they were going to bring only the candidates that you support, you'll be happy. No one else will be happy.
Okay. But that's
So
the process.
It's got to be I mean, unfortunately, it's a consensus.
Yeah.
So
you're not
but when the consensus says this is who we want, don't I have a right and say, no, I'm sorry, I can't go there?
You have that right.
Okay.
What I'm trying to question is the wisdom of that.
Okay.
If everyone took your point of view, let's say that 2 million people in Ohio took your point of view that either one of them's perfect on abortion, I'm not voting for anybody. You're going to get the Democrat who wants to kill babies up until the time they come out and start breathing.
That may be true.
I don't know if I could live with that.
Well, but I didn't put them in there.
But you could have kept them out.
But I didn't vote for them. And I can put my head down on the pillow at night and say, God, I honored you with my vote.
And what if he said back, Barry, you could have held that guy out of office.
But that's an excellent point, Jim, because whenever I have this discussion with people, because they always go down with this argument, well, you have to vote for one or the other. Well, I can go to bed at night, putting my head on the pillow and feel at ease with my Lord if I say, God, I stood for righteousness, and no one fit that category. Not asking for perfection.
So you don't vote at all then?
No, I do vote.
Well, you must not. You said you stood for righteousness, and
I don't fill every box.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you want your vote to be counted in every race, right?
Correct.
Okay. Here's what I do. I feel the same way. I want my vote to be counted. However, if I don't know the candidates in a particular race, I cast a ballot on that in that race, and the vote goes for me. I write myself in. I know I'm not going to win.
Is,
However, I'm
is
not
that
going to
throwing
vote for
away
the
your
two
vote?
people.
Is that throwing away your vote?
Nope. It's my vote is cast. They have to count it.
Okay, but it's not going to matter.
You're right, but to bring up your point that you don't like those two people and you're not going to vote for either one of them, so you can tell God that I did righteous by you and I didn't vote for them. You lost your vote in that particular race because you didn't cast one. So
with our argument here, though, you really have to vote for one of the two candidates on the ballot. Otherwise, you don't.
No, you don't.
By not voting, you're allowing the other candidate to be elected.
That's correct. So you want your vote to count. So if you don't want to vote for the one of the two that are running, nothing says that you can't write in a candidate. Me,
Okay.
I write in a candidate. The candidate that I vote for is Gino Santamaria.
Okay, how is that different than me not voting?
What's that?
It's not.
How is that different than me not voting?
I think
Neither
it
one of
is.
us are going to get what we want.
The point is, you cast your ballot. You vote on a particular race. So if you got 10 people voting, you got 10 votes there. If you go in there and say, well, I don't like them too, I'm not going to vote. Now there's 9 votes. The percentage goes up.
Okay.
I want to keep the percentage the same. I want my vote to count, but I'm not going to vote for them too. So I write in a candidate, a third person, and then there's 10 votes there. I know that write-in candidate, wherever it is, whether it's you write in yourself or somebody else, you're keeping your conscience that you're not voting for the two people you don't like that don't fit your character.
So, Gino, if is your procedure, are you assuming that the two candidates that neither one you like, that they are both equally bad?
When I don't vote for them, correct.
You think they're both equally bad?
It's not that they're bad. It's just that I have no knowledge of them. I don't know where they stand. I don't know biblically where they stand or whether they're saved or not. I don't have enough information on either one of them. So I don't feel that I should vote for either one of them. But I don't want to waste my vote on that particular office or whatever race it is. So I write myself in.
You don't do any research before you go to the polls?
Well, I do, but sometimes there's candidates there. Like school board, you got 10,000 people running for a school board and there's hardly any information out except for the incumbents. So how do you do research?
Well, those ballots are done weeks in advance. I mean, you can ask around. I'm not saying that I do, but you can. But I withdraw the question.
We actually printed out our sample ballot. You can go to your local election office and you can print out. You can do it on the internet. You can print out a sample ballot that has every person, every issue that's there. You can get that way in advance.
Yeah, the voters' guides are right there.
Yeah, so you can do that because Mary and I printed that out. But Gino, I'm not sure what you do is really factually in the end any different than what I do.
No, you guys are equally bad.
Okay. Thank you for that, Jim. The other thing I don't do is if somebody is running unopposed, I do not check their name. To me, that's stupid. And you get a lot of times people run unopposed.
True.
Well, why are we even going through the process if nobody's going to challenge them?
I challenge them.
Okay, but do you write in somebody on each case?
Yeah, I write in Gino Santamaria, a candidate.
Well, Gino,
have you held?
I've come close to winning.
Gino, a full confession. I have written in my wife's name a couple times.
Well, see there, you didn't waste your vote. You voted for somebody. They had to count it.
And I tell people, you got problems in the Middle East. Get my wife on a bad day. She'll go over there and straighten it out right now. So, okay.
Now, there's not even any truth to that. Mary's too to even think about straightening out any problems.
Well, she'll watch this video, so she'll straighten me out.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna rise on her approval list, and you're gonna drop.
Okay. But let's take it in a little different direction. I was helping my son-in-law with a project the other day, and we were riding in his truck going to get some building materials, and we were talking about somehow we were talking about the election. We were talking about the border, immigration, stuff like that. So I posed this scenario to him, and he wasn't mad at me, but he said, I'm making it difficult. All right. Let's suppose we're all in our early 20s, mid 20s. We live in Guatemala, someplace like that. We know the government there is horrible. We know there's militias that control that, drugs, and all kind of stuff going on. I have a wife, and maybe I got a couple kids, maybe a couple girls and a couple boys. They're young. I know that if I don't get my family out of there soon, my daughters will either be raped or sold into the sex trade market. My sons, by the time they're 10, will probably be forced into the militia, or they'll be sex trade. Might even take my wife. I don't know. So my options, as I can understand, is try to cross a river, climb under a fence, do whatever I can to get my family to safety. Which husband, which dad wouldn't try to do that?
Every dad would do that, but that's not. I know that's not a necessarily unlikely situation, but it doesn't solve the problem here, where too many of them come. We can't take care of the world.
Right. I agree, Jim. I'm not saying we just open the borders and let everybody in, and that's where we're at now, and that is wrong. Okay, but the idea that we're going to deport 11 million people doesn't make sense to me either.
No.
Okay. We need to do a better job at this. In fact, I would suggest these kind of families, we should be helping them, not hurting them. Now, we have an immigration process, and Gino, you've mentioned that your family has come in that way, and that's a hard road. And some of these people just are fleeing. They don't have the money or the resources to go through that process and wait a couple of years. They are fleeing. They got to go now.
Barry, the legal way to make an asylum claim is to flee to the next closest country and apply for asylum.
Okay.
Not skip over 4 or 5 countries to get to America.
Yeah. So what about Mexico?
If that's the next close, well, okay, we're the next closest country to Mexico. Yeah, you could entertain asylum claims for Mexicans.
Right, but come here and do it.
Entertain the claim.
Okay.
I didn't say in.
Why are
we want them to make the claim? We want them to make the claim there before they come, and to me, that's just not a logical process.
Well, why are we assuming that they have to come here illegally? There is a legal process. Years and years and years ago, when my family came over, when I came over, yes, it took longer. It took a couple of years to get the whole family over here. Now, with everything that's happened over the past 3 or 4 decades here, and with our border, the process has been streamlined. The process is a lot shorter. So why are we even entertaining coming in illegally here? Given that scenario that you gave us, Barry, if I was the young father, I would look around. Yes, I got to get my family out of here, but I've been here. We're used to it. They know us here right now. It's not this immediate threat that I have to get me and my family out tonight. So with that in your mind, yes, I want to go to safety. I want to take my family to safety. So what's to prevent me from doing it right? If it's Mexico, go to the Mexican embassy or whatever, file the proper paperwork, and then, when they approve it in a month or 2 or whatever, just temporarily move my family. Or in Mexico, into coming to the U.S. Why aren't they doing it legally? And then there's even attorneys at the borders, U.S. attorneys that assist you with the process to do it legally. And I think if somebody was to do it legally and wait a couple months, even 6 months, even if you have to wait a whole year, you're probably going to get approved. And there you go. You and your family are in here legally, and you don't have to worry about being caught and kicked out or whatever.
Gino,
So why are we even entertaining that illegal process?
it still is, Gino, a multi-year process to come in legally.
Yes,
So,
but you can come in as a legal alien. That process isn't 2-3 years.
It
But
takes quite a while to get in.
the answer to your question is, why do they do it illegally? Is because they're invited. They have been invited.
that's true.
So
They've been
now,
invited and enticed with all these benefits that they're supposed to be they're going to get.
That
right
may
off the
be
bat.
against our nature, but there's a reason why that our government has invited these people in. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And the fact is, we don't take care right now. Our country for years and years has not taken care of our vets. They haven't taken care of homeless people, and they haven't taken care of mentally ill on the street. Matter of fact, they closed mental institutions down, and also the needy. That's where the sources ought to go. And what you said, Gino, is in my book is correct. Come in legally. But when someone's inviting you, say, let's line Canada, United States, and Mexico up, which they are. Why is the United States a target country? Why is that? Not just because of our advantages, because if they want to save their family, like Barry said, if they wanted to get them out of harm's way, they could do Mexico or Canada. But the United States is a target country because our government wants them in here.
And they want them here. Why, Wayne?
Well,
the obvious
because they have to get, and this is where, and I'll say it on the podcast. The fact is that I lost my train of thought. That they're seeing it with their own eyes now. That they are pandering to these illegal immigrants. They're going to be voting. If anybody thinks they're not going to be voting, they're sadly mistaken. This machine is in operation full bore,
and they're mostly being relocated to swing states.
Yes, indeed.
So yes, that indeed. in a short time, if they get their way in a short time, we will be a one-party government. Now you might still have two parties, but as a practical matter, we'll be like California.
Yes.
One-party rule.
Yes.
Well, like I said last week, though, rather than seeing this as a reason to turn them away, let's see it as an opportunity. Let's evangelize them. They'll become conservatives like us, and they'll vote the same way we do.
Oh, Barry, you're very optimistic that more than
absolutely. I have an awesome God.
Barry, you're very optimistic that more than, say, 10% will be converted.
Okay.
Jesus says, "Broad's the way that leads to destruction, narrow's the way that leads to life. Ever few there be that find it."
Okay.
It won't be even 20% converted.
Okay, but that's 20%. I'm willing to work for.
For the sake of
what about the 80% that's going to be here? That's still drug dealers, criminals.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I'm not suggesting. I am no way suggesting we just open our border like it is now. What I am suggesting is this is a complex issue. We just can't say let them all in, or the other thing is let's build a wall and don't let any of them in. I think there has to be a discussion somewhere in the middle.
Well, by building a wall, who are you keeping out? Are you keeping the immigrants out, period? No, you're building a wall to close the border to get people not to sneak in. But that doesn't affect the legal way to get in here. Immigration policies are still open. You can still apply for immigration status just because you put a wall up. All that wall is going to do is stop the people that are trying to sneak in here illegally.
Well, that's a pretty big issue, though, the ones that are sneaking in.
Yeah, because they're hitting the immigrants that are sneaking in there, regardless of where they're from or what their situation is. Get back to that list that you gave, Barry. It affects every single one of those items on that list. It affects the economy. It affects healthcare. The Supreme Court that have to make all these decisions when the stuff gets to them. Foreign policy, crime in particular, gun control. We're right back to square one.
Barry, we should table this subject and move on. We're not gonna make any progress unless you see a way to make progress.
I don't. I just one last thought. In the kick this ball further down the road. When we're done with the southern border wall, we're going to start one on the northern border, because if people want to come, they'll just go up to Canada and come through that way.
Then we have to do what we have to do.
Okay.
Because when we fall down, the world will be enslaved in 2 years.
Well, Barry, real quick, if you're going to secure the borders, I mean, when I hear the word border, I'm assuming we're going to protect and secure the whole United States, not just the southern border. There's problems up in the northern border, especially the terrorists are coming through the northern border.
Yeah, we don't want Justin Trudeau sneaking down here. We don't want Trudeau
about the whole country. You know, unfortunately, the southern border is the one that's really been brought up and is in the media. But we're talking about a whole country.
Yeah. Remember Reagan went to Germany and says, tear down this wall?
Yep.
Yep, he did.
And
we need to find solutions that a wall doesn't solve.
That wall was the exact opposite. That wall was keeping people from freedom. It was hemming them in East Berlin.
Yep.
And that's what our wall on the southern border, keeping people from freedom.
Not us.
No.
They're about to.
So as long as it's not us, we're okay.
Well, there is a certain amount of self-preservation that kicks in. I mean, we are stewards of what we've been given. There is, and what we haven't talked about, I mentioned it briefly, but the international law says if you're applying for asylum from a tyrannical government, it has to be in the next country you get to.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not legal.
But we can change that law.
That's international law.
I know we can change it.
Well,
how are you going to change it, Barry?
Do we want to?
No, see, this law doesn't change.
No.
But this law is amendable.
True.
Okay. You know, I just think sometimes we make these things too simple. I think they're more complex than what we lead on. And our politicians feed on our concerns because, let's face it, guys, we like things simple. You know, I like to know exactly where my can is on each issue and make it short and concise. And I say, okay, but if you start making it complex, now you're going to lose me. My life can be difficult enough. I don't need this kind of stuff too.
Hey, how about if we take a couple minutes and try to design an immigration policy, and all four of us have to agree on each point?
That's not going to happen.
Well, I don't know. Let's see how far we could get.
But you can get a consensus, at least make some progress. And right now, where America is, we're either saying build a wall. Yes, we have an immigration system, but again, that is very limited and very challenging, to say the least. But we got that. Okay, so let's build a wall and don't let anybody else in. Or let's let them all in. And all I'm saying is it's got to be a better way to solve this issue.
Okay, we should stop there. We agree there could be a better way to solve it.
Okay. What other issues do you guys want to talk about tonight?
Let's talk about nuclear winter.
Okay. I don't
It'll
know.
be awfully bright.
We're in Ohio. You know, we had beautiful weather today, and you know, it's perfect fall weather today. You know, it's mid-60s. Mary and I took a nice walk in the woods. It was beautiful. But you know, there are times in January and February, and especially as I'm getting to be an old person, that my bones don't handle the cold weather the way it used to. And I've jokingly posted this on social media. Sometimes I crave global warming.
Okay.
You know, in January, February, I wouldn't mind if the temperature went up 5 degrees. I could live with that.
Oh, I thought you said you create gold.
No, I crave it.
Oh, yeah. Hey, if the temperature went up by 2 degrees Fahrenheit, you know how much more farmland there'd be in the world? I mean, you could farm way up into Canada all year round.
Sure. We'd have to adjust the crops that they grow in Ohio would, you know, maybe more like the crops they grow in South Carolina.
You could grow bananas probably.
Well, but nothing only changes 2 to 3 degrees. It's not that. We're not talking about this becoming Ohio or Pennsylvania becoming tropical. We're not talking about that. We're talking about 2 or 3 degree change over the next 100, 200 years, if that. I think we could adjust to that pretty easily.
Well, if that's all it is, why is there a big fuss over global warming?
Because remember somebody years ago wrote a book about all the ice caps melting and the polar bears all dying, and that was supposed to happen 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not about global warming, you think? Huh? What do you think about that?
What is it about?
Money, money, money.
Mm.
And control, power and money.
When they talk about climate change or global climate, I don't know how many times I've heard it, even on the newscast, the media, that the U.S. Joined this and the U.S. doing that. The U.S. is paying millions of dollars to do this and millions of dollars to do that. And some of the other Western countries, they're kicking in money. And that's all you hear. My first reaction is, okay, we're all these third world countries. They don't have to kick in millions of dollars like we do, but a little bit. Where's China and Russia in this? Where's Ukraine? Where are these other people? They're taking money instead of contributing to try to solve the problem. So why are we paying for everybody?
Russia and China are too smart to kick into something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Wayne, I think you're bored. I want to hear from you.
Well, I don't believe any of it. So I was sort of saying that. Hey, it depends on which biologist you listen to. 100 years ago, the ice caps were doing the same thing that they've been doing for the last 20 years, and then the temperatures changed again. Well, what's going to happen when the temperatures change the other way, Barry? Then the ice is coming down from Canada into Ohio and Pennsylvania, because here's what I know. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Yeah. And I know this: God can take care of the heavens and the earth.
Wayne, the history books.
I'm not saying pollution. I'm not saying. There's Pastor Denny.
Is that God calling? Wayne, the history books say that Ohio used to be a glacier. Okay. Ohio's very flat, and they say it used to be a glacier. Well, I guess we've been doing global warming for a long time then.
Yeah. Yep. And also they find remains of elephant seals and things in Colorado and all kind of stuff. I mean, the earth does its changing, and I'm not saying pollution or any of that stuff, but this green deal is nothing more again than a socialistic ploy, I think, by a one world government who uses all the tools. Bill Gates big on this, that we can just take these little issues and we can make people afraid. We can scare them. We can put them into fear. And when we do, we have them because it's control. And that, to me, it's about control. I don't believe it for a second. Matter of fact, Nancy this morning, whenever she came in, she goes, "Go outside and look up." Our sky was filled with chem lines. It was full, just zigzagging, a beautiful morning like that. And you tell me they're not, they know what they're doing. But I'll say this, our God knows what he's doing, and that's who we rely on. I have no fear or doubt about any of it. Well, I don't believe it.
Wayne, what is a chem line?
Chem line is chemicals that they bring out of airplanes.
It's a theory. It's a theory that the government or other people are flying high altitude planes and spraying stuff on the population.
That wouldn't surprise me. That wouldn't surprise me at all.
Oh, you haven't heard that?
No, never.
That's what makes me so good looking. Those chemicals.
That's
working.
Listen to Bobby Kennedy talk about the cereal that's sold in America versus even Canada or the UK.
Well, we have so many food dyes and things like that, you're not allowed to sell it in other countries.
So why do we allow it to be sold here? Doesn't that make you wonder?
Well, it's about money.
Well, yeah, the
Yeah.
big pharma wants to keep you sick. They
Right.
want to keep you alive, but they don't want you to be well.
Well, when we talk about climate change, and we're all over the place here, and I suppose that's okay. I actually had a discussion with somebody who bought a new electric car. Okay, and they said, "Well, I want to save the planet. I want to do my part." And I said, "Where do you get the energy to charge up that car?" Well, I just plug it into the wall. Okay,
Plug it
where
into
does that
your wall.
energy come from? In Ohio, over 70% of your energy comes from fuel burning, fossil
Fossil
fuel
fuels.
plants.
Yeah.
So what are you saving if you're charging your battery with money from a coal-fired plant?
It's
It's a
worse than that, Barry.
scam.
It's
So
worse
what
than
was the
that.
reply?
He's plugging it in to the outlet on your deck, is what's happening.
Okay.
So
And
what
you're
was his
saving
reply?
money. That's a scam. Just like wind power, you can go up downtown and see hundreds of windmills up there, and they're so inefficient. They break. They're super expensive, and the power that they produce is ridiculous.
Okay. But back to my original point where I was trying to go here is we take a lot of these issues and we say it's either A or it's B. And I'm saying, no, it may be C. It may be more complex than that. Maybe the answer is somewhere in the middle. But in politics, we are extremes.
I think that's human nature. When one person fights against another person, I've got to be right, you've got to be wrong. There's the compromise is, and there's that word compromise. But on some issues, especially, I'm sorry, I don't trust our government at anything. I don't trust them with our food. I don't trust them with our air. I don't trust them with our water. And I certainly don't trust them with our money. Should I keep going?
For a while.
Yeah.
What do you trust them with, Wayne? Anything?
I trust them to be crooked. And,
Oh.
and I think they're very good at it. And that sounds, and Barry, you just said it, that's extreme. But you tell me what they do good with my tax dollars.
Spend it.
They spend
They're
it
good at spending.
like they made it. They didn't make a cent.
Well, they printed it.
Yeah. Yes. Depleting what the dollar is worth. And that's what people don't understand. They print money like it's nothing, but every dollar that they print makes the dollar in your wallet less.
Yeah.
Every dollar. And then they give it away. And then they give it away. We have North Carolina down there, and I keep going back to this. Well, we have North Carolina down there, people suffering. I just seen some stuff again today. They're still digging out, trying to get into places. They have no money for that. But they want to send another 17 or 18 billion dollars to Ukraine on this little thing they want to give them. Give me a break. Let's go to North Carolina.
Yeah. We should never be involved with Ukraine. That's the problem with our current government. I've just been awakened to this in the last couple of years. I mean, we have been in too many wars, and we've started them and caused them and kept them going, and it's shameful.
There's big money in war equipment.
Yeah,
it keeps factories going.
There's also a lot of people killed in war, and to people making those decisions, it isn't their kids.
Well, let me ask this. Sorry, my voice is a little cracky here. Yesterday in church, I was talking to a gentleman that we have become friends with. He's probably about my age, maybe a little older. And he put his hand on my shoulder and he said, God's hand is upon President Trump. He is God's chosen vessel. Okay? My first question is, how do you know that? Because if that's true, I want to know that. But how do you know that? And number two is that the case, I guess I don't have to worry about whether he's elected or not. Because he's going to be.
Where'd you get the MAGA hat with the scrambled eggs?
No, it's gold leaf.
Scrambled eggs.
That's a $30 hat.
Gotta be.
That's an investment.
Did you buy it?
Yes.
Oh, you are a Trump fan. We never knew that, Barry. Congratulations.
No, I just
I didn't
like I
realize that
say,
you
it's more
realize you liked
complex
them.
than what you think.
Well, Barry, I'll give you a quick answer.
Hmm.
How do we know that he's God's chosen? Coming from law enforcement background, where did you ever hear or see of any person being convicted of multiple felonies and still is outside walking around, let alone to be convicted of 34 felonies? That's number one. Number two, his assassination attempt. If you just look at that, how did the kid miss him? He hit his ear. It just at the last second, he moved his head a little bit just to nick his ear. That's not a coincidence. The way I look at it, that's not a coincidence to me.
Gino, I understand what you're saying.
Trump should have been dead.
I understand you're saying it's not a coincidence, but I don't know that.
I don't know that either, but just from what we saw, I don't think it is.
I don't know that.
I think
could be the kid's a bad shot.
I don't know. Those bullets come whizzing by his head, and one connected a little bit.
You're doing good tonight,
I don't
Barry.
think so.
That's pretty good.
I mean, if you think about it, actually, God has used a lot of.
Let me turn this way.
There goes the bullet. God has used a number of very imperfect people to do His will.
Oh, absolutely.
I just wrote David down.
And then let's take a quick look at his first presidency. To move our embassy in Israel. Everybody has talked about it for so long. Nobody has ever done it. Trump gets in there and Trump does it against everybody's wishes. That's a God thing to me. I mean, put Trump's rhetoric aside, but his actions speak louder than the words. When you start taking a look at all those things, Roe versus Wade. I mean, he didn't do anything other than appoint justices on the Supreme Court who overturned that. To stop killing babies, to take it back locally.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's a God thing. How long have they been trying to get that reversed in the Supreme Court? Trump gets in there and all of a sudden he appoints a couple people and bam, that happens.
Did it stop?
Not that he did it directly.
Did we stop killing babies?
No, we're actually killing more right now.
Yeah. So, Ohio was the first state, this happened last year, to rewrite our Constitution to allow abortion. We're the first state to approve that in our Constitution.
And how did that happen?
The people voted for it.
The people, correct.
The people.
Even though you guys show ID at voting time.
Yep.
How did it happen?
The people.
Where are the people's morals? That seems to be the question throughout this whole country.
Well, they used to have the phrase, Jerry Falwell used to use the phrase, the moral majority. I always rejected any thought that the majority was moral.
Yeah, we would never have a moral majority.
No.
Hey, Barry, on November 5th, Election Day, I'm actually coming out. I'm going in the voting booth with you. I want to see you cast that ballot for Donald.
With your hat on.
So wear my hat.
Yeah.
I would wear it for you, but I can't.
Hey, Trump will carry Ohio. You guys need to take care of Pennsylvania.
I think he's going to win Pennsylvania landslide.
Yeah, right. Ohio he's got, but Pennsylvania is going to be the challenge.
Depends how much cheating takes place.
Yeah,
we got to watch that Philadelphia area.
but the only point I'm trying to make here, guys, you guys know a lot of stuff. I hate this term. I used to do this in our church. I tell people I'm the devil's advocate, and I don't like that term, but I try to get people to think, because I think too often we don't think about these things. We just take one side or the other and say, okay, there we are, instead of realizing it's a lot more complex than that. And
Yes,
we need
it
to go
is.
deeper if we're going to solve some of these issues. And right now in America, we're so busy fighting each other, we're not solving much.
Nope,
You
we're
know,
not.
one of the things that, even in our discussions with the four of us tonight, we've gone around, but the Bible's pretty clear on this. And you brought up is God's hand on President Trump to be anointed, president or king of this land, not of, king's not the word for this, but biblically it was King David. And we know that, my goodness. So I'm getting something else. Okay, there you go. Yes, that's where I'm headed. So
That's my vote.
okay. So the thing is that God's people has got to not worry about. Nancy and I actually prayed for Biden and that staff. It hurts sometimes to pray for people that you don't care for, that is doing evil. But I'm telling you, we prayed God through him, and what we think, or what we put in our minds is, okay, since there was a number of God's people praying for Biden not to do evil, what did God spare us from? We don't even know what God has already spared us from. So why, if we have a candidate that we feel is, and Trump did give glory to God for sparing his life and things like that. Yes, as a person that's sort of bubbly, I would have wished he would have expanded on that and went further with that, but he didn't. But he did give glory to God for sparing his life and the things that he's brought him through. So what would happen if God's people who are called by his name would humble themselves and pray and turn from their wicked ways? Then he'll hear from heaven. That's, to me, we can discuss this. And literally, I figured whenever this came up several weeks ago, this was going to be the subject clean up into election, because it's big. It's a big subject, and it's it's disheartening. But on the other way, I still believe that God has everything in line. I think there's a remnant of people that are seeking God's face, that are actually calling out for him to change this land into something beautiful. And as far as, and not to take us back into the immigrants, but think about this: the more immigrants that flood in here that depletes our nation, the less missionaries the United States of America is sending into the world, because the finances are being depleted. And the thing is, we have missions through hopefully every Christian church out there is doing something mission wise. I think that's the case, but I don't know that statistic. But you think about it, people who don't have any money, they may be tithe payers, but they don't go the extra mile to give money into missions. And the fact is, if the enemy can deplete the pocketbook of the Christians inside the church by allowing these illegals into our land, then he's defeating souls elsewhere, abroad, because there won't be the finances for missionaries to go. Just a wiggle.
So instead of sending missionaries, God's bringing them to us.
Well, he is bringing them to us, but we're not going to be sending them out.
Are we not to welcome the stranger and take them in, even allow them to stay in our house?
I understand that. Can I just say this though? Do you think there's very many people in the United States of America that has not heard the name of Jesus and God called on them? Whereas in other countries, that is not the case. There's other countries that do not have the name of God readily upon them to know that. And so for me, I mean, the United States of America, we have been so privileged. We can go into towns and there'll be 25 churches. Anyone in the United States of America walk into a church, any church, and hear about God. Well, not any church, but there's enough Christian churches out there. So what I'm saying is, we've been privileged that the United States, we have this, and he's bringing these people into us. He's breaking us down in another way. And so I'm on board with you, Barry. I think that probably 90% of the people coming into this land is seeking asylum because they're being persecuted in their land. I totally get it. I totally get that part. But it's the other part that the evil is set up among us. You don't think that after this election, one way or the other, evil isn't going to happen? I'm telling you, I think we better hang on to our bootstraps, because
Yeah,
I think the Christian church
I
is
think
about to
that
find out.
90% might be a little high, Wayne.
It might be, but
Yeah, but who knows? The other thing is, election's a week away. I think if we figure this will all be settled in a week, we're fooling ourselves.
Nope.
Yeah, I agree.
These are hard issues. This is
Yeah.
not going to be solved on an election day.
No.
And we're meant on a narrow road. I think when we're as a church, sometimes we're followers instead of leaders. Sometimes we don't take the initiative and say, okay, we can build a wall and slow these people down, or you can let them all in. Perhaps we as a church can get in there and say, maybe we can help you all find a better way to do this. But a lot of times we just step back. And like I say, a lot of people say, well, this is my guide. The Constitution says, you can't take my guns. But what does the Bible say about laying down my life for someone else? It's giving up all that I have to help my brother in need. Sometimes those aren't, it seems like they're clear-cut issues, but I suggest that they're not.
Well, the Bible's clear-cut. As believers, we're supposed to be pretty clear-cut if we understand and read the Bible, read the Word, and digest it.
Right.
But a lot of the problems is even the believers, they read the Bible, but they're on the fence.
Okay. I understand the Constitution says you cannot infringe on my guns. All right. But when I pick up the Bible, it suggests to me that maybe I need to make some sacrifices to save some souls.
You wait.
They're not getting my gun.
Yes, I agree with you, Barry, but you also have to weigh the issue. Does a gun have anything to do with the Bible and other than protection or in that nature? What does the Bible say about a gun?
They didn't have guns in those days.
Yeah.
But clearly, if you think about it, Israel had a military. I mean, that King David led a military.
Okay.
You've got to have a fighting force to protect your people. I think that's a very godly thing to do. It'd be a very ungodly thing if you didn't protect your people.
Well,
That's all next week.
Again, like you said, Jim, we are called to be stewards of what we're given.
Yep.
Part 3.
Yep.
Oh no! Please spare me part 3.
No, we're not going to do a part 3. And this is one other thought. I know she won't watch this, so I'm not going to say a name, but I have a lady who's a neighbor. She's a little bit older than me. She is a wacko. Okay, I don't know how else to put that. Sorry.
Now she's going to watch it.
That's not
What's
a
her
technical.
address?
I know that's not a technical term, but this lady, I mean, her elevator doesn't make it to the top floor. Okay, she carries a gun in her trunk. I know that because she showed it to Mary one day. All right. Now I understand the Constitution says we can't infringe upon somebody's right to have a gun, but this scares me that this lady has a gun. She's going to hurt herself or somebody else. Isn't there some way we can do something with this?
He's a deer hunter.
No, you can't. If you start there, where do you stop?
Oh, I understand. I'm not saying it's a simple answer. That's why I keep saying these are things that are complex, but we just can't do the status quo. This is craziness.
Information and education.
Here,
Yeah, you're not going to get this lady to take a gun safety course. Not going to happen.
I offer you this, Barry. If I know I got a wacko neighbor who carries a gun, guess what I'm going to have?
This is the same neighbor who knocked on my door one day in a C-390.
Uh-huh.
Okay, then, packing her gun.
Okay.
No, no, you couldn't see the guy. This got to be exposed.
Well, maybe it was well hidden. Let's not go there. Okay.
All right, let's go somewhere else.
I'm signing off.
Okay. Hey guys, I appreciate it. And again, all I'm suggesting here is these things are complex, and simple answers that we get from our politicians is not going to fix it.
Nope.
And we need to voice
Agreed.
the fact that we want real solutions here. And let's just not kick this can down the street for another 4 years and then do it again.
Mhm.
We need some changes here. And
Amen.
Wayne, I think you said about praying for Biden. I think and I'll speak for myself. I think where we as a church fall down is we don't pray for our government the way we should.
No, I agree.
Criticize them. We make jokes about them or read funny stories about them, but we don't pray for them.
Mhm.
And maybe that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Well, I appreciate the discussion tonight. Hopefully we made some ground here.
How about if I pray for our government as we sign off?
That'd be awesome.
Lord, we are indeed grateful that we have a country where we have sufficient freedom, Lord, to speak our minds. And Lord, I pray that you'd help us to fulfill our duty also as children of God, Lord, where you have given us so much, and we are stewards of this, Lord, and we think we've been generous, Lord. You will eventually decide how generous we've been. I pray, Lord, for the safety of all the political candidates, Lord, leading up to this election and even afterward. Father, I pray for safety for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and all the other candidates, Lord, down balance. Lord, I pray that this would not end in violence, but in
Amen.
peace.
Yes.
And Lord, we do pray that your will be done in this election. And Lord, I pray when it's over, I pray it would be evident that it was not a corrupt election. And Lord, that all parties will accept it. We ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Man, thank you, Jim.
Amen.
Good
And
night,
last
guys.
word, make sure you get out there and vote, everybody.
I already did.
Okay, thank you, Jim.
Yours was burnt in the ballot box.
Okay. Have a good week, everybody.
Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you. Go America.